Punto aparte, un espacio para crecer, diálogos claros para un nuevo renacer, ver en foco, futuro para ofrecer, cada episodio un mundo para entender.
Bienvenidos y bienvenidas a otro episodio de Punto Aparte. Mi nombre es Celi Colón y hoy tenemos el gustazo que nos acompaña un invitado súper especial. Se llama Scott Budnick. A lo mejor has escuchado, a lo mejor no su nombre, pero estoy segurísima que has visto su trabajo. Voy a cambiar inglés ahora, así que la conversación la llevaremos en inglés con subtítulos en ambos idiomas. So today we have a super special guest. You probably heard his name, and if you haven't, I'm sure you've seen his work. He's Scott Budnick, and Scott is the guy behind one of the most commercially successful comedy franchises in modern Hollywood, which is the Hangover trilogy. And Scott made a pivot in his career to focus on criminal justice reform, founding ARC. And then in 2018, he founded One Community, an impact-first studio whose first film was Just Mercy. And now Scott is working on the film Puerto Rico with Residente and Benito Antonio Martínez Ocasio. Scott, thank you so much for this time.
Thank you for having me.
How are you?
I'm in Puerto Rico. I'm great. Sound great.
This is your
18, 19, 20th trip in the last 4 years, 5 years. I'm obsessed with this place. I love it. I love the culture. I love the people. Love it all. So I keep coming back.
What are those moments or those, things about the culture and Puerto Rico that keep bringing you back?
I mean, I first came in 2022. A guy named Nelson Colon, who runs the Puerto Rico Community Foundation. I'm on President Obama's board for his initiative, My Brother's Keeper. And Nelson Colon came on and talked to us about a school in Puerto Rico that we were partnered on with the Obama Foundation. And I wanted to go see it. So I told him I would come to Puerto Rico. And a couple months later, I was at the NBA All-Star game in Ohio. And I met a reggaeton artist named Lunay and his producer, Gabby Music. And they're like, you got to come. So between the school and Louisa and Gabby Music and Lunay, I'm like, okay, I got to come check this place out. And that was unbelievable. And then I also went and visited a juvenile prison in Ponce and met some incredible young men who were incarcerated, but were like trying to change their lives. And just like hearing their hopes, hearing their dreams, hearing about their lives made me appreciate the place even more. So it wasn't just like the glitz and glamour of like the touristy parts of Puerto Rico, but it was really seeing like what makes the people the people.
Tell us a bit more about your work with ARC and the criminal justice reform.
Yeah, it started like I came out to Los Angeles to make movies and like got in with a very young director very quick, and my career started to skyrocket, but I felt like there was a lot missing. I didn't feel meaning in my life. And a friend of mine asked me to come to a juvenile prison in Los Angeles and be a part of a creative writing class and speak to the kids about movie writing, script writing. And I went there. It was February 8th, 2004, to meet with a bunch of kids facing life. In California, we would sentence kids as young as 14 years old to life sentences to die in prison. And so I went in there and sat with those kids. And the first kid that I met said, how was your week? And he said, it was a tough week. I just got sentenced to 300 years to life in prison. I said, what did you do? And he said, I stood next to my friend who shot the victim in the butt. The victim was in and out of the hospital in a day. And for standing next to the guy with the gun, I got 300 years to life in prison. And seeing a 15-year-old tell that story was like heartbreaking to me. And heard about from all those kids in that class, and all of them have just had we're all victims before they ever became a victimizer. There's a saying that says hurt people. Like if you're hurt inside, you hurt others. And I just knew that like I had the privilege and the ability to help. And so I started going in there every week in 2004, and I still go in there every week in 2026. So I've been 22 years kind of going in and like just being very consistent. And it's the same thing I said to the young people in Puerto Rico in the prison. I said, if you guys are willing to work on yourselves and change and grow, and you want something better for your future, like I'm willing to keep coming in. And so I'll make the trip from Los Angeles 3 or 4 times a year to keep going back.
What have you found in during your visits to the prison of Villalba?
I don't know. I feel like the young people in Puerto Rico, I don't know, I think are softer. And I say that in a very nice way than the kids in California. They're nicer. They're more respectful. They're more welcoming. All of them come, like, even when a stranger comes in and gives everybody a hug, like, what's going on here? So even though they've committed crimes or maybe in gangs or whatever it may be, like, there's just a level of respect and like a level of like warmth that is like really nice. And I also feel like all of them want a better life. They just don't know how to get there, or there's so much trauma and so much pain in whatever they've been through as kids. And a lot of them have talked about seeing violence at a young age, seeing their parents beat each other at a young age, being sexually abused at a young age, not having parents, being in the family system, the foster care system, whatever you call it here. All of them want something better. It's just about, like, can you get past your old traumas? Can you get past your own hurt, your pain, your brokenness to get to that life that you really, really want? And so now it's not just working with the youth in the prison, but now a bunch of the youth I worked with in the prison are now out.
And what can we do? Let's say someone that's watching this conversation and says, I want to get involved. I would like to provide that support. How can we be more helpful to this youth?
Well, it's interesting. I think there's something different here than in California. I really feel like I had a big actor from Puerto Rico who has a long family history. Him and his father are both Puerto Rican. And they told me, your problem with this, caring about this, Scott, is that no one here cares. They don't care about these kids. The people don't care about these kids. They want these kids out so they can live a peaceful life, right? They don't care. Like, the people don't care. The government doesn't care. No one cares. These kids are invisible in the prisons. And I feel the same about the government here, right? It's like, it is the 100th issue of importance to them. And it's not something important, where in California, it's very important to our legislators and to our governor. And I think it's important to the people. And so, like, how do we get people to care about kids that have harmed people, kids that have committed crimes, kids that are terrorizing the community? Like, how do we get people to believe that those kids can change? How do we get people to care about them like they're their own kids, and believe, like, with the right love and nurturing and accountability, that they can become great and they can go to college and they can graduate or they can have a great career? So I think the biggest thing, before we can do anything, before we can even get resources for housing and jobs and education and all of these things for these youth, the first thing is we need the people and the politicians to care.
One of the ways I've heard you talk about getting people to care also, it's through storytelling. What kind of storytelling, what have you learned?
First story I'll tell is this podcast was brought by Cafe Communion, Abner and Darla. We love you.
We do love them. Yes, they're our neighbors, actually.
See, what I realized, like, when I started, so, because, like, I started off making comedies, right? And, like, it was just about making people laugh and giving people some joy during economic collapse in the United States and COVID and all these things. I think, like, being a part of, like, letting people laugh is a good thing, right? And then, like, kind of going down in history is, like, some of the biggest movies that make people laugh is good. But, like, when I left the comedy business and I started ARC, which is my nonprofit, I realized that, like, anyone that I brought into a prison, whether they be liberal or conservative, whether they are a cop or a victim of crime, or a legislator or a governor, whoever I would bring into prison, no matter what they thought before they went in there, when they went in and they sat with human beings and had a face-to-face conversation with the human being, just like we're having right now, 100% of them changed the way they thought about the criminal justice system. And I just realized that, like, the power of stories, the power of humanity, right? The power of like stories to generate empathy in people's hearts is everything. So like we asked, well, how do we get the people that care about these kids that don't care? Like, I know if there was like a massive storytelling initiative on social media, in the news media, in newspapers, in public, about the opportunity that these kids could have to help their communities, right? Instead of taking away from the community, right? To help the community, the change that they're making. The kid that was in the foster care system, in the family court, that went to Villalba and was incarcerated, that now comes out and is now getting their 4-year college degree, right? Like, those are the stories that we know like generate empathy in people's hearts. So then it's like my new company, One Community, was just a film and television company. Is just like, how do we supercharge that, right? You can't bring everybody into a prison or an immigration detention center, or like have people bring everybody around the LGBTQ community and understand that, or go into the hood and understand poverty and struggle and suffering. But we can do that in movies. We can do that in television, right? And so One Community exists for us to be able to tell these stories in film and television, so that a Netflix or a Warner Brothers or a Universal or an Amazon then puts it out into the world for tens of millions of people to see, right? And so scaling that effect of storytelling.
What are other areas or examples, no, where maybe we say, I do not have the connections. We all have some sort of network that we can put together to help either change the narrative or see things different and move the needle. It's really what I want to say.
I think for people listening, they're like, I want to help, right? And by the way, helping isn't just doing something great for the other person. The joy you get from seeing the fruits of your labor, right? And seeing someone else's life change is incredible. Like at this point, I can send an email and like that one email can drastically change someone's life, right? Because I'm emailing the right person that could do something for the person. So like to me, the first thing that any one of these kids need is, and when I ask any young person that has done great in life, what allowed you to change? 100% of the time, they said it was somebody. Someone cared about me. Somebody believed in me. Somebody was always there for me. Somebody was consistent. Somebody loved me, right? No one's running out in the streets to commit crime if they feel love at home, right? So having that person in their life just as a mentor, right? A friend, someone to care about them, someone to guide them. Like that's the most important thing. There's not one person listening that can't do that, right? So to me, that's number one. Number two is if someone is growing up in, say, the projects or wherever it may be, and that is kind of where their dysfunction is, and now you're putting them in prison, and as soon as they get out, they're going right back into the same dysfunctional home or community, etc. Being able to provide housing on an island, somewhere on the island, that is safe, that is secure, that is focused on school and work with mentorship and therapy and all of those things. Like in California, we have hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of transitional houses for people coming out of incarceration. They call it give them a soft landing, right? So they can be there with a life coach and a therapist, someone to help them reintegrate back into society, right? Here I haven't seen much of that at all. So I think the housing piece is a huge piece of this. Then obviously workforce, right? Be able to create jobs, starting with just entry-level jobs and teaching people professionalism, teaching these young people how to write a resume, how to interview, how to dress properly, how to be professional in an office environment or a work environment. I think that's crucial in providing those jobs, right? There's no reason that we have the amount of like just the music business alone on this island, right? They don't hire anyone coming out of incarceration. Although Rimas has just started to do that. Haven't heard of anybody else. But imagine the amount of jobs that can just be created in music. But how do we create that in construction? And how do we create that in Los Angeles? We have something called the California Conservation Corps, which is hires hundreds, if not thousands of kids, 18 to 25 years old to full time to go do nature projects They're wildland firefighters. They're clearing out streams. They're building hiking trails. They're doing brush removal, clearing off roads, right? And that's full-time employment for 18 to 25 years old. Like, does that exist here? Can it exist here? Can we bring it here? Can we scale it here? So that all 18 to 25-year-olds can not only have a full-time job, but can be giving back to their community every day. Like, every day you're giving back. Every day you're making the island more beautiful. Every day you're helping people save their homes, and etc. And so there's a lot that people here could do. Education, employment, therapy, housing, mentorship, all of it.
What can we learn from California and from that experience that we can replicate here in Puerto Rico?
I think we've been able to figure out in California how to make this issue bipartisan, right? It's not for one political party or the other. And so we've been able to, just through relationships and lots of talking and bringing legislators and governors and people to prison, been able to make them care. So I think it's just about time and effort, and obviously having the right connections to get them to care. I'll drop a name right now. I usually don't like doing this, but I'm going to. It's like, I was talking to Kim Kardashian yesterday about the Puerto Rico juvenile justice system and how, like, me and her have done so many visits in prisons in California, and she has personal relationship with so many people in prison, both the people incarcerated and the staff, etc. And like, I told her, like, no one cares. It's like, we may need you to, like, make a call to a governor or a head of the Senate or head of the House of Representatives or somebody to get somebody to care. And she's like, I'll call anybody. Let's set up a Zoom. Like, let's do it. It's right. But it's like, I wish it didn't take finding someone with 350 Instagram followers to, like, make people care. But I'll use every tool in the toolbox to get somebody's attention. Right. And that includes, like, bringing in my, like, Hollywood world into this. And so I think my next move is to just figure out how to, like, talk to politicians and make people care, and not play this political party game. And, but to me, it's trying to make everybody care in every party that these are our kids, right? These are the kids of Puerto Rico. And if you can take them out of a lifestyle of hurting people and hurting themselves and hurting their families and help them into a lifestyle of helping themselves, helping their families, and helping their community, like, what's a better win for the island?
I love that quote that I heard in one interview that you gave, Scott, that is regarding one of your superpowers. You've said opening the door, connecting people, and then shutting up.
Yeah, I always say that. Yeah.
You just gave that example now with Kim Kardashian. But now let's flip it on yourself. Who opened the door for you?
Oh, wow. You flipped the question. I love it. No one's ever asked that. It's interesting. I started interning in college for a casting director in Atlanta, Georgia, named Cynthia Stillwell. And I would say she really opened the door for me because I started working on, like, real movie sets, TV shows while I was still in college. So I say she massively opened the door for me. Then once I graduated 4 years later and moved to California, Todd Phillips, the director of The Hangover, really opened the door for me. He had was directing his first movie called Road Trip, his first movie out of college. I was on the movie as a production assistant and casting assistant. And, like, my job was to basically get people coffee and make them the director a peanut butter and jelly sandwich. And, like, I would do anything, but I would do it better and faster, and I wouldn't ever complain, and sweep something, do something, like, whatever. I would always do it. I think he saw that I was there early and I stayed late and I would do anything. And so a couple weeks into the movie called Road Trip, he fired his assistant and hired me as his assistant. And he was loyal to me for 15 years. And we did Road Trip together. Then he brought me on Old School, which was his second movie, and then Starsky and Hutch. Then Hangover 1, 2, and 3, Due Date, Project X, War Dogs. Like, it was a really great run together over a 15-year period. And it was unbelievably loyal and opened the door and really taught me so much.
What does a project needs to have in order for you, what do you see in a way? They give you a script or you a story that you say, this is a project, this is a very project to work?
I think there's a lot of elements. I think first, before anything, it has to be entertaining, right? Secondly, it's got to be able to make impact. It's got to be important. It's got to be meaningful and about something real. But it can't just be that, because if it's not entertaining, then it's just a lesson, right? It's not a movie. It's got to be entertaining and impactful. Beyond that, to me, it's director. Everything's the director. If you don't have a good director, you don't have a good movie. So director, script has to be tight, great characters, great plot, great structure, great dialogue, great everything. And then obviously the cast. And like who's playing what, etc. And always who's the audience. Like a lot of people make movies and they never ask themselves who the audience is. And then they make a movie that nobody sees because there's no audience for it. So like always want to make sure we know who the audience is. Entertaining, impactful, director, script, cast, and audience.
Coming back to the projects that you're working on now and keeping that thread of film, you're part of the team executive producer of Puerto Rico. How did you start in that project?
It's a wild story. I met Residente because a big rapper in the United States who's very involved in prison reform named Common, who's also an actor in all the John Wick movies and everything. Incredible man. Common was doing a concert in a prison, and my friend suggested that because the prisons in California are mostly Latino, that we have a Latino artist come in, and she reached out to Residente. He said yes right away, because you know the kind of person he is and what he cares about. So I met Residente in a California prison. So we were in prison together. So that was the first time. That was probably 2018. So that was at least like 8 years ago, maybe 9 years ago. And then we stayed in touch on WhatsApp. And when I was coming to Puerto Rico in 2022, in 2023, I reached out to him and I'm like, I'm here. And he's like, brother, I'm writing a movie right now that has a lot to do with the history of our island. And I want to talk to you about it. So I got together with him before there was a script, before there was anything. And he like really taught me a lot about Puerto Rican history. And then I started grabbing a bunch of books and reading a lot about Puerto Rican history. And he was writing this movie with like a massively well-known screenwriter named Alex Dinelaris, who wrote Birdman. I'm like, oh wow, this is for real. And then I started watching a lot of Residente's videos, and I'm like, oh my God, this guy's like a genius. Like he's an incredible rapper, he's an incredible director, he's an incredible like writer, editor, everything. And then I read this script and I was just like mesmerized. Like it was written not like by a writer, but by a director. Like it was absolutely beautiful. I cried like multiple times reading it. It was like a historical epic, but like a thriller at the same time. Dealt a lot with with kids that were on the streets back in Puerto Rico, back when the Spanish were about to hand it over to the U.S. And it was mind blowing. Obviously, it said a lot and it meant a lot. And there were themes that were like really hardcore. And I told him, I'm like, let me help you put this together. I'm in 100%. At that point, I wasn't even like, I want to produce this. I'm just like, I want to help you in whatever you need. And he already had Alejandro Iñárritu, one of the greatest film directors, as his mentor on it. So like he was already in like great shape, but like it's been an unbelievable run, like 4 years now with him on this thing. And seeing Benito come on, right, in the starring role, and Viggo Mortensen and all these other incredible actors, Edward Norton coming on as the American in it. So it's been beautiful. And it's just been an amazing experience. It's been a learning experience for me, but it's also been like something that's like fed my soul in like a real way. Like Residente is my family. That's my brother.
I was just going to ask, in what ways has it fed your soul, the project?
I mean, I think working with somebody that's so passionate. I mean, this guy eats and drinks and sleeps this movie 24/7, 365. There isn't 1 minute of the day where he's not moving pieces around. And like to be able to work with a director that also is a producer that is like pushing his own passion down the tracks, right? Where you're not having to do all the work, right? His passion is what every actor says, why every actor we talk to says, I want to do this, is because he's so passionate about it, right? And like reading the history of Puerto Rico and understanding the first like 4 governors of Puerto Rico were like white men in Kansas who didn't care about the people at all.
No.
And understanding the beginnings of like that colonial system, right? I think being involved in a story that's so powerful.
When you talk as a team, what do you want to accomplish with Puerto Rico?
I think first things first is we want to make a movie that is entertaining and gets as many eyeballs as possible around the world, right? That people can relate to in any country that they're watching it. I think 2, I think it's a movie that wins awards. I think it will be nominated for an Oscar. Both the script and the director are phenomenal, and the cast that's coming together and is amazing. I think it's a love letter to this island. I think it's a historical epic that makes people understand the beauty of Puerto Rico, the struggle of Puerto Rico, the resilience of Puerto Rico, understand reggaeton and understand the music and like what the music means and where it comes from. And like, so I think the movie is like equally important and equally entertaining.
One of the last ones, Scott. What's that story that you haven't told yet that you're longing to produce?
Oh man. It's a great question. There's an unbelievable script that I want to make. I won't give too much information out, but it has to do with water and how important water is to our lives and the scarcity of water. And you don't have the problem here, but in California we have droughts. But it's told as like a big, young, exciting, like YA, which is like young adult, almost like Hunger Games type story. And I've been talking to one of the most brilliant directors on the planet and comes from Puerto Rico, comes from Santurce, Anjo Soto, who did Blue Beetle, right?
Yeah.
It's my brother right there. I love him. Like that's my guy. So me and him both love this thing, and it's just about figuring out if we can put it together in the right way. But that's amazing. And I just read a movie last week, that it's not a Puerto Rican story, but the whole thing could be shot here. And to be able to bring kind of more economic engine, to be able to hire more Puerto Ricans, to be able to hire some of my kids from the Alba on the movie here, and to be able to live here for 3 to 6 months making another movie is really exciting. So I hope that comes together too.
What's one kid that you met in Villalba that you can't stop thinking about?
I'm
sure there's more than one.
There were 3. There was like the 3 amigos, I called them. It was Ian, Dylan, and Alexis. 3. Obviously, I think I gravitated to them because they spoke perfect English and perfect Spanish. So like the communication, we didn't have to go through a translator the whole time. But they were all very charismatic. And all 3 of them have been released in the last 6 months. And all 3 of them are experiencing their own kind of struggles, joys, troubles, everything, just trying to like get their lives on track in a place where there aren't many people wrapping their arms around them, and struggling with their own past. I mean, one of them has been in the foster care system and the family system his whole life. So he's had nobody, no parents, no one loving him. So obviously he's coming in with much more brokenness and trauma than kids I grew up around, right? And so kind of putting a team around him and having him know that he's like deeply supported. I got to give it to the Rimas Foundation. Shout out to Jose Benitez and Hector and Yamira and Noah. The work they're doing for these kids, hiring them like on their team, right? Like the Rimas Foundation has been like the only people I've seen in music that are like walking the walk and not just talking the talk.
Providing that opportunity.
They're incredible. And so like all of these kids, it's like, I know I can go back to California and like, I don't have to do the work from 5,000 miles away. Like the incredible team at Rimas are doing the work here every day with these kids, and like through every struggle, through every addiction, through every finding housing, everything. So like shout out to my boy Alexis, shout out to my boy Ian, shout out to my boy Dylan. Shout out to the Rimas Foundation for every day putting in work.
When you talk to family and friends in Puerto Rico, what are you saying to them?
I said it's the greatest people you'll ever meet, the most welcoming people you ever meet. Like so deep in culture, and tradition that like when you go there, like it's just the energy is unbelievable. I talk about the food, talk about the restaurants, talk about the beaches, I talk about the color of the water, the color of the sand. But I think ultimately everything comes back to the people, right? I mean, the people of Puerto Rico are just ridiculous.
What's your favorite food so far?
By the way, this gonna piss a lot of people off. I don't like mofongo. I don't love the texture. I know I shouldn't say this on a podcast. But like I gotta be real and I gotta be
We're
authentic.
welcoming. Remember, we're welcome where we.
Yeah. But like all the meats, all the chicken and the steak and the churrasco and like all of that, I love the rice and the beans and the plantains and the tostones. Oh my god.
Tostones. Ana or plátano? Have you tried the pan tostones?
Sí. Oh,
Yeah. What's that Spanish coming?
listen, I do Duolingo every day. I'm on a 300-day streak right now. I'll be at 300 days on Friday.
Oh, wait.
But now I need to start watching more TV with subtitles because I feel like that goes faster and just speaking it. But like I can understand it so much more now. In a year, I can understand when people are talking and I'm like, wow, I understand. I'm like, but when speaking it, you're a little intimidated, right? Like you don't want to sound stupid. So I probably can speak it a little bit, but it's like slow.
Thank you so much, Scott.
Thank you. It's been great.
Time.
We excited to meet you.
Thank you for the project you're doing.
Thank you for all you're doing.
And
Let's do a lot more.
to visit Villalba and to also share all those stories.
Awesome. Thank you for having me.